Good morning, distinguished guests, today's presenters, panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for joining us to this important event, Boundaries and Bridges, Navigating Respect in Multicultural Marriages, proudly organized by Monash Interfaith Gathering. My name is Kamla Reddy. I am an executive committee member of Monash Interfaith Gathering. It is my honor to serve as your MC for today. A few housekeeping information. The restrooms are through the door over there, through the corridor on the left. In case of emergency, there are two doors at the back of the stage. There's doors in the front as well on the side. And may I please kindly ask you to switch off your mobile telephone or put it on silent mode, please. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the country. To start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today, the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung and Bunurong peoples. I recognize their enduring connection to the land and waterways and pay my deepest respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Ladies and gentlemen, today we come together to explore the unique dynamics of intercultural, interracial marriages, relationships that bring together rich traditions, diverse values, and different worldviews. While these differences can create beautiful connections, they can also present challenges, especially when conflicts arise. MIG's goals are to open up conversations that help us better understand these challenges and find meaningful and respectful ways to navigate them. Today, you'll hear from expert speakers, real-life stories, and towards the end, have an opportunity to engage in thoughtful discussions with the panelists. Thank you for being here as we embark on what promises to be a meaningful and thought-provoking discussion. Let's keep an open heart and mind as we learn from one another. It is my pleasure now to invite the president of Monash Interfaith Gathering, Farooq Derek Shan, to recite the MIG prayer and deliver the official welcome. Please join me in welcoming Farooq Derek Shan.
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome on behalf of Monash Interfaith Gathering and organizing task force to this important forum on family violence. As you heard, my name is Farooq Derek Shan. Oh, hello. Should I start from the beginning? Oh, okay. Thank you. So good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to each and every one of you on behalf of Monash Interfaith Gathering and its organizing task force to this important event, forum on family violence. My name is Farooq Derek Shan, and I'm the president of Monash Interfaith Gathering, and it's a privilege to see so many of you here today, which is demonstrating your commitment to addressing this critical issue, family violence or violence altogether. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today and pay my respect to the elders, past, present, and emerging. We are honored to have with us today Member of Federal Parliament, the Honorable Ms. Karina Garland, and Member of Monash City Council, our previous mayor, Mrs. Nikki Liu, and today's presenters and panelists. Your presence underscores the importance of this gathering and your dedication to creating a community free from violence. So let us take a moment and read Monash Interfaith Prayer. Almighty Creator, guide the Monash Interfaith Gathering to be a true collaborative representation of various faiths and beliefs. Show us how to become a committed group, working together towards understanding, respect, dignity, and justice for all citizens in our community. Keep us single-minded to defend the right of each individual to practice and celebrate their own religion and respect the rights of others to hold their chosen beliefs or non-beliefs. Help us build bridges between people of all faith and beliefs within the community of Monash so that all of us attain a peaceful and fruitful coexistence. Finally, a sincere thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. Your presence and participation are invaluable as we work together to combat family violence and all forms of violence. We hope that today's forum will be informative, thought-provoking, and ultimately contribute to positive change in our community. We look forward to a productive and meaningful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Farouk. I'm sure today's discussion really will be very informative. It will also be quite thought-provoking. Actually, under Farouk's leadership and guidance, Monash Interfaith Gathering has been able to organize quite a number of events. This is one of them, and it has been organized quite successfully, so thank you. Now, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Councillor Nikki Luo, the former mayor who's representing Monash City Council, and the Federal Member of Parliament, Dr. Karina Garland. Very welcome. We'd like to hear a few words from each one of you. I'd invite Nikki to come to the mic first. Now, because of the time factor, we were not able to give the full bio of Nikki and Dr. Karina, but they are all in the packs that are going to be given to you. When you take it, you will be able to know what they have done and what their qualifications are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Nikki Luo from the City of Monash and representing Scotchman's Creek Ward. On behalf of Monash Council, I acknowledge the traditional owner of the land that makes up Monash, the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung and Bunurong people, and recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways and pay my respect to their elders, past, present, emerging, and extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and who may be here today. And following my cultural traditions of a Chinese heritage, we would like to acknowledge all the seniors and leaders in these rooms as well. I would also like to acknowledge my very good friend, Federal Member for Chisholm, the Ms. Karina Garland MP, Monash Interfaith Gathering President Farah, and all the committee members, all panel expert speakers, our special guests and community members. I'm very delighted to joining you again at this special event. As a part of the Boundary and Bridging Navigating Respect in Multicultural Marriage Forum hosted by Monash Interfaith Gatherings. Preventions of family violence and gender-based violence are issues Monash councils care deeply about. Everyone in our community deserves to be safe and respected. Unfortunately, family and gender-based violence can happen to anyone, no matter their age, culture, ability, backgrounds, and or socio-economic status. Monash Council has a long history of working towards greater gender equities, diversities, inclusions, and preventions of all forms of violence. We believe that starts with addressing gender equity will be the beginning. Our gender equity framework sets out our commitment to ensuring that people of all genders enjoy the same opportunities, rights, and respect. By having zero tolerance to any types of gender violence at workplace and in the community, we want to ensure that everyone feels safe, respected, and valued. In 2022, Monash was successfully receiving funding under the Free From Violence local government programs. This funding supports Monash to implement a whole-of-council approach to prevent family violence, violence against women, and gender-based violence. The program focused to promoting positive attitudes, behaviours and culture change in workplace, as well as programs and services delivered to our community to ensure we advance respectful and safe relationship to help to stop violence before it happens. Innovative programs to prevent violence against women are also a key strategies to the health and well-being priority within the Monash Health and Wellbeing Plan. And recently we have the community panel to come in as well to discuss about our 10 years planning. And I think that was a feedback from the community member was the eye-opening where the multicultural, multi-faith background communities will be able to have their voice in that to form the 10-year strategy, which is we are very proud of as well. And we are incredibly lucky to have passionate individuals who volunteers for the Council Gender Equity Advisory Committee, working to ensure that gender equities and the prevention of violence against women remains a focus for the whole of a council. Council takes a proactive approach to increase the awareness of this important work across our community. Each year, Council proudly participates in the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign, hosting several activities and working closely with support organisations to help community champion positive messages to the gender equities and equality. We're very honoured we have our violence officers, Elena, over there as well today. If you have any questions regarding that, she'll be available to answer some of your questions and discussion as well. We are very fortunate to have such hardworking officers to promote that our gender equity framework and for the against the gender-based violence program as well. So thank you. Our Monash Quick Response Grant Program is available to our cultural and community groups to apply for projects or events that promote gender equality and prevention of family violence. Our gender equity framework also set out important policies and procedures to approach to ensure they become business as usual. So not just a paper that looks pretty but not in action. So we are really eager to make sure that all this is put in action as well. Council's community strengthening team do incredible jobs in programming our community-facing activities. And in community where our residents can access valuable resources and support services. And I would like to thank you, all of you, your important work and for being part of today's important discussions. And I look forward to the panel discussion today. Myself, as a mental health clinician that have worked in the sector for 18 years and see many of the family gender-based violence in my work areas. And it's never easy, a topic to raise and to talk about, particular women in the diverse community. Because of the language barrier, they always find it really difficult to say, I've got an issue, I've got a problem, particularly if they are newly migrant here and not knowing the sources where to go to, or because they not have a prominent incomes, sometimes they're afraid. People can always say, why don't you just divorce or leave? It's not as easy because as a whole, because the cultural perspective, it's never that easy. But we are very fortunate. We have Monash team and also we have our police as well in here always with the support. So and our federal member or the state members, they always willingly have their door open. If there's any issues that you want to reach out to finding further resources, they'll be able to refer on as well. Once again, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nikki. You left your phone?
Oh, yes.
It's true, Councillor Nikki has reminded us that Monash is one of the most diverse and multicultural communities here. And we are so happy to hear that Monash Council is very aware of family violence issues and that they do have programs and support available. So thank you. And I must say that most of the events that we are running, we do get funding from Monash Council. So please continue to give us the funding. We will carry on the work that we are doing. So thank you very much. Now it's my turn to invite the Federal Member of Parliament, Karina Garland, to come and say some words. The full bio is in the pack. So please join me in welcoming.
Thank you so much. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which we're meeting today, the land of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respect to their elders past and present. I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Nikki Law, all of the presenters here today, everyone who's attended, and I'd like to thank the Monash Interfaith Gathering and Secretary Janice Clear for the efforts and the invitation to be here. This is a really important conversation to have, and it's great to see so many people from different groups in the community here, because the reality is we all have a role to play in ending gender-based violence in our communities. I'm really pleased that at the very start of this term of Parliament, as I was entering Parliament, our government initiated a 10-year plan to end violence against women and children in a generation. Now, this is ambitious, but we have to set those high ambitions in order for us to be able to achieve that aim of having society, having communities where women and children and everyone is safe from violence in their homes, violence in their work, violence in the community. I want to acknowledge too that experts in our community, including those at Monash University, contributed to the national plan and really helped to frame and shape that. So there is that grassroots local element to that overarching plan. The plan focuses on 4 key areas: prevention, stopping violence before it starts, changing underlying social drivers of violence and addressing the attitudes and systems that drive violence against women and children. 2, early intervention, identifying and supporting individuals at high risk of experiencing or perpetrating violence and preventing it from occurring and reoccurring. 3, response, providing services and supports to help victims, survivors experiencing violence. And 4, recovery and healing, helping to reduce the risk of re-traumatisation by supporting victim survivors as they recover from their trauma. Now, some additional points I'd really like to make about the national plan is that, firstly, victim survivors were central to the conversation of how to change the paradigm here. And that's really important, that they are empowered to participate and to inform a national strategy. The second comment I'd like to make about the national plan overall is that this touches every single portfolio area in our federal government. This is not simply the responsibility of one minister to deliver. This is the responsibility of everybody. So I've spoken a number of times and worked with ministers a number of times in my time in Parliament across education, whether it's in higher education, whether it's embedding prevention in schools by talking about gender roles and gender norms, which we know have an influence over people's attitudes and behaviours. Working through our social services minister and through the department there to ensure that the funding is available for frontline services and that those frontline services are located in places that the community can access them and are meeting specific community needs. As Nikki mentioned, we have a very multicultural, diverse community here in Monash. That's what our community looks like. The services in every community need to look the way they should for the community to access them. We're working through health and provision. Their housing is an incredibly important part of our government's efforts to support victim survivors and to eliminate gendered violence. We have specific housing that has been built and is accessible, social and affordable housing for women and children escaping violence. And of course, one of the very first things that our government did when we were elected in Parliament was make the provision of family violence leave something every single worker in Australia could access. Now, this is quite unusual because usually forms of leave, whether it is sick leave, whether it is holiday leave, often only go to directly employed permanent workers. This is available to everybody, regardless of whether they are casually employed, part-time or full-time. And this is a really important step forward for creating time and space for those who are planning to leave a relationship, because we know that is one of the most dangerous times for people, is when they are attempting to leave a violent relationship, to make the plans to do so. If you haven't read the National Plan, I do encourage you to do so. It is available to read online. There is also a summary with the key recommendations and key steps being taken. And as I mentioned, it's very holistic and is across all portfolio areas. This is not simply something that is a responsibility of one minister. This is everyone's responsibility. So in addition to that, last year you may remember that a National Cabinet was held in Canberra with all states and territories to talk about a coordinated approach to address what really has been a national crisis for a very long time. Interventions in the past have failed to shift the dial here despite everyone's best efforts, so it's clear we need to do more. National Cabinet agreed on a $4.7 billion comprehensive package to prevent violence and to support legal services, and that's particularly about community legal services too. The funding is going to deliver support for frontline specialists and legal services responding to gender-based violence, and also deliver innovative approaches to better identify and respond to high-risk perpetrators to stop the violence from escalating. And I know I've been working through our state government colleagues on the service delivery side of that, and Victoria certainly has had a great contribution from the federal government for the provision of additional services. We're also going to be working to address the role that systems and humble industries play in exacerbating violence, with a particular focus on sort of specialist services for women and services to support children, in particular exposed to family, domestic and sexual violence, to heal and recover. Because something that came out of all of the consultations to put together the National Plan was there wasn't really much consideration of children who were in violent households, or who were themselves, if not victims of violence, who were witnesses to it. So this is something that we've put a lot of effort into doing. We're also focusing on working with men too, including through men's behaviour change programs for perpetrators of gendered violence, and providing funding to establish national standards for men's behaviour change. There's a lot of work going on, but obviously we want to all see those results. And through evidence-based approaches, which is the focus of our strategy, we think we can get there. We also need to maintain our focus on missing and murdered First Nations women and children, and the disproportionate impact of domestic and family violence in First Nations communities. And I mention all of our efforts to really highlight how seriously our government and how seriously I take this issue of violence against women and children. You know, unfortunately, every year during the 16 days of activism against gendered violence, and on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Children, I stand in the Parliament and, you know, I make a statement, and the numbers sometimes go up of women who have been murdered. And that is hard, and we must get working together more so that not one single person is a victim of gendered violence. We're doing what we can. We're pulling all the levers we have to prevent and respond to gender-based violence, but we know that for generations not enough has been happening. So it's going to take all of us and real determination to have conversations like this, and to bring our education into the different community spaces we all occupy, to call out bad behaviour when we see it, to understand how to connect with the services who can provide support. We must demand action, all of us, including members of governments, and change at every level. We all need to be part of this together, to work together. As Nikki said, my door is always open. I know that council and state government and federal government need to work together with communities to deliver change here. I'm looking forward to hearing from people today and to doing what I can to support everyone's efforts. Thank you for taking action, even just by being here today and being part of this important conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Garland. Despite your very tight schedule,